Well, still staying actually with the matters banking, that the Kenya Bankers Association chairman, Lamin Manjang, says that the push towards repealing the capping interest rates is not likely to affect customers, as it has been peddled by different quarters. He spoke to KTN Business Today, citing interest rates would be pegged on key market fundamentals as opposed to the current plan. Well, we had an earlier interview with him, and here's more. Well, we have with us the Regional Chief Executive for Standard Chartered Bank, Lamin Manjang. And a lot has been said about the rate cap. We now want to hear it from the chairman as well of Kenya Bankers Association, who is here with us. Perhaps, what is your take on the government's position on the rate cap? There's talk around reviewing it and changing the framework. What do the bankers want?
Well, as far as the interest rate cap is concerned, I think the banks have expressed concern about the impact that this would have on credit growth in the economy and that the impact that it would have on the banking industry. I think all those fears have come to pass. And today we are in a position where the devastating impact of this on credit growth is apparent, is very clear for everybody. Our position as a banking industry is that the interest rate cap should be removed so that we go back to... Completely?
Repealed.
Repealed.
Okay.
So that we go back to a system where interest rates would be market-driven. I think that system has actually stood Kenya very well over time. It's not as if we haven't been through a cycle or a phase where there were price controls on interest rates, price controls on foreign exchange, and so on. We've gone through that era, and we've seen the impact that it has had. We believe the free market would be better. Obviously, a free market is not unfettered. There has to be controls. There has to be consumer protection. There has to be transparency. And I think these are the areas where the government should come in to ensure that you have a level playing field and that the customers are protected. Obviously, there are other areas where structurally efforts can be made to make sure that the cost of credit overall is brought down in the economy. And that requires partnership between the banks, between the judiciary and other arms that will ensure that, perfection of security, foreclosure, all of those things that somehow lead to inefficiencies and therefore get built into the price are addressed in a very structured and in a very constructive manner.
All right.
So our objective is to make sure that rates are affordable and that credit is accessible to our clients.
So if this rate cap is repealed, where does this leave the average Kenyan borrower who is already paying an interest rate of, say, 12–14%? Will the repeal take the rates back to market rate? Will they be affected, or will banks be considerate?
Well, I mean, obviously, once you remove the cap, I mean, banks will respond in different ways. We're not a cartel as a banking industry, so we do not sit down to determine what the price would be or what the interest rate would be. Each bank makes their own decisions. My expectation, though, is that banks would act in a very responsible manner. Obviously, it's not in our interest to make sure to see rates in an unsustainable manner, which then leads to credit defaults. Because if you price it so high that the customer cannot pay, obviously then it leads to a credit default. So we do want rates that are, affordable, and that people who want to borrow are actually able to access those credits. But I think that should be done within the context of a free market where rates are determined by market forces.
All right. Are you saying that the Wanjikus, the Ochiengs should rest easy?
Well, I think in the end, we have to really realize what is in the long-term interest of our borrowers and for the overall economy. If you have a cap, and irrespective of what it is, whether it's interest rate cap or foreign exchange rate cap or commodity, somebody might decide to control the price of sugar or flour or whatever. Whenever you have price controls, it leads to a distortion in the market. It leads to artificial shortages, rationing, etc. So we don't think that is in the long-term interest. Of course, in any system, there are some who benefit in the short run, and they might see it from their perspective. But really, one needs to look at this from a broader perspective. What is in the long-term interest of Kenya? It is to have a free market, but one that is obviously regulated in terms of ensuring that there's a level playing field.
All right.
There's transparency for the customer as well.
Okay. Many thanks, Lamin.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Let's see how the government takes it up.
Okay, thank you.
Well, that is our exclusive interview with the Chief Executive Officer for Standard Chartered Bank, Lamin Manjang, just commenting on issues to do with the rate cap and how the bankers want things done. That's where we leave it at here on this show. Well, of course, that was an interview earlier recorded, and the chairman of KBA quite optimistic that the rate cap will be repealed. But all this is just but a question of time, and we'll continue to monitor developments around this. Let's take you to some more stories now. And East Africa Group Executive Director for the African Development Bank, Caleb Wegoro, has spelled the bank's commitment to support the country's key infrastructure projects. This comes after the official toured 6 projects in central and western Kenya in energy, transport and technical training, as well as agriculture. The Menengai geothermal power plant and the Timbo Roa Eldoret Road project were just some of the projects visited by the bank official since his arrival earlier this week.
We have had no issues, and the disbursements have been excellent. Therefore, it is our hope, and we still encourage you, Bwana CS, that you bring forward more proposals to the bank for financing in various sectors, especially for those that are under the Big Four agenda.
We really appreciate the partnership that we have had together, especially the support in the infrastructure programs that we have had in Kenya. We look forward to continue working very closely with the ADB, especially now that we are focusing on our Big Four agenda. We are going to discuss in details how the pipeline projects will support our Big Four agenda, and also relook at the portfolio that we already have.
You may just get lower power bills if plans by the Geothermal Development Corporation, GDC, to build a 105 megawatt power plant come to fruition. The corporation's managing director, Johnson Olenchoi, is optimistic, noting it's full steam ahead. Here's more. After a false start riddled with funding challenges, the Geothermal Development Corporation says it is now set to break ground for several power plants at Menengai Crater to deliver 105 megawatts of power to the country's national grid.
The steam report carried out by independent consultants has confirmed that we have enough steam for the 105 megawatt power plant. The land issue where we are standing has also been sorted out. We have a lease of 40 years from Kenya Forest Service to develop this particular project, which is of national importance to the economy, the social development of our country.
Commissioning of the power plants heralds a new dawn to consumers and manufacturers who will pay less for power by a big margin compared to prevailing power tariffs.
This particular project will deliver among the lowest cost of electricity to our end-user consumers at 7 US cents per kilowatt hour.
Although the additional 105 megawatts will deliver cheap power to millions of Kenyans, it is still unclear when the Menengai Crater Geothermal Power Project in Nakuru County will start supplying electricity to the national grid.
We expect, hopefully, the first one to start work by June this year. You will soon see the site is ready. We have given them all the documentation.
GDC has so far drilled 45 wells in the crater. 25 of the wells have been completed, and independent power producers can now start tapping the targeted 105 megawatts of electricity. The total cost of the project is pegged at 12 billion shillings, which is being funded by the African Development Bank.
Upon completion, about 500,000 people will benefit, or homesteads will benefit from the power.
Once completed, the power project is set to boost Kenya's total installed power capacity to stand at 2,405 megawatts. Geothermal power is considered to be clean energy and sustainable compared to other forms of energy. Despite its high initial setup costs, geothermal is the future for energy in Kenya. Abi Egina, KTN Business. Well, let's look forward to cheaper power bills, even at a time when Kenyans continue expecting to get their bills lower than ever. Well, of course, you do know that there's that developing story also following around the prepaid tokens, where Kenya Power has sent out a message saying that they're experiencing delays on their systems, and Kenyans can buy tokens from across the country from different outlets. Well, that's the latest on that. Moving on, the Kenyan government, through the Ministry of Defense, is in the final stages of acquiring equal status at the Italian-owned San Marco Space Center based at Ngomeni in Kilifi County. Defense Principal Secretary Saitoti Torome led the Parliamentary Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations in touring the facility to check on the status as the government finalizes an agreement of partnership with the Italian government. Already, 180 Kenyans have been trained and absorbed in various departments at the center that the Kenyan citizenry know little about. Torome says that the center spends more than 10 million shillings in salaries alone every year and is of great importance to the country. The center is set to spend 6.4 million euros on its community social responsibility program.
It was established here in 1964, has always been under the Italian administration. The Italians have been basically doing everything until 2016, and we are glad to inform everybody that today the satellite station now is a collaboration between Kenya and Italy. We have also been able to see our young scientists who are trained here. At least as Kenyans, this is no longer a foreign soil or a foreign entity. It's a very important facility that is doing very many things. And as Kenyans, we must take advantage of this facility to be able to use it for research.
What we are going to do is to build capacity so that we are able to apply these applications for the benefit of our society. So that's why we are really supporting this.
Well, interesting developments there. And let's take you to another story now, where the call to uplift young leaders in Africa took center stage as the Young African Leaders Initiative regional event came to a close in Nairobi. Here now are some of the highlights from that event.
Over the past almost 3 years, the RLC has facilitated a transformational leadership development experience for young leaders from across East and Central Africa region. And this is in an effort to unlock Africa's potential. We've been focused on equipping young people with skills, knowledge, networks, and resources to take lead in transforming their communities, their countries, and ultimately this wonderful continent of Africa. And we are delighted to have come this far. 23 cohorts in, 2,000 plus alumni who are actively working to transform their societies. That's a huge step forward in transforming Africa.
Well, on that note, we're going to go for a quick commercial break. But like I told you, we'll be talking matters insurance, and we have the CEO of AAR with us in studio, and all that coming up after the break, as well as more stories from the business world.